Hello, welcome to the replay. Welcome to tonight's live. My name's Jason Butler, and I do a live every Tuesday night where I talk about something dear to my heart, which is the role of money in your life. And I like to help people master their money so that they worry less and live more. Got a special guest tonight. I'm going to be joined by Dija Ayodele, who is a female entrepreneur who's very successful, primarily in the beauty area. We'll be talking about scaling for digital businesses, which is, but we'll talk about all business issues, anything to do with business, anything to make it. Hi, Dija. Hello there.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Thank
you for joining. Hey, do you know what? I was a bit worried because I know that you're really into the beauty world, right? Okay, that's one of your things, and skin and all that. And I suddenly looked at myself and I thought, oh my God, I've got to look my best for Dija. I've got to really put my cool, sort of vibrant looking face on. So all I did was doused myself in some cold water, rubbed a towel on it. I thought that'll have to do.
You're absolutely fine. It's doing well.
Great. Well, look, Dija, thanks very much for joining us. And as people are all sort of flocking to us at the moment, I was just saying, it's been interesting, isn't it? An interesting couple of weeks. We want to talk about not just a digital pure business, but the role of digital in building business, right? And doing business, because every business is involved in digital, right? It's not just purely digital business.
You can't avoid it now.
Yeah.
You can't avoid digital now at all.
Yeah. And I thought what we would do is, I think we just have a general, initially, just had a sort of back and forward about the general role of digital and the sort of trends that we see. But also, I think we can talk about some of the challenges and the opportunities of business generally, but with a slant to the digital delivery.
Yeah.
And then perhaps what we can do is we can sort of share some of the insights that we picked up from our own experiences, but particularly you, because I know you've got multiple brands and different divisions and stuff that you're pushing out.
Yeah.
And if anyone's got questions, chuck them in the comments box. Please don't put them in the question box, because otherwise it won't be able to see Dija. And I'd like to see my guests so I can speak to them. So if you've got a question, money related, business related, there's no silly questions, by the way, just chuck it in the comments box. Or if you've got a comment, you want to add to something, your perspective, your idea, no one knows all the answers, chuck it in the comments box. So before we get into that, Dija, do you want to just tell everyone what you do, what line of business you were involved in?
Okay. So, well, generally, depending on what day of the week it is, it can be different. But I generally work in the beauty industry, and I have a skincare clinic. So that's one of the things that I do. And I am a hands-on therapist, skin therapist, which obviously we're not doing at the moment because of Corona and lockdown. And the other aspect of, one of the other aspects I have is I have a platform called the Black Skin Directory, which connects people of color to skincare professionals. And then thirdly, the other sort of really big thing I do is I consult. So I consult for the beauty industry in general. So I consult whether it be a new brand is launching and they want some insights, or whether it be diversity. So I consult, and those are the sort of two main things I consult on: new brands, new product launches, as well as diversity. So those are my three key things.
Yeah, now it's interesting because quite a few people have used, whether it be social media or using a funnel strategy of nurturing lists, businesses that really seem to have really scaled, or rather really got traction, are ones that have tended to focus on a specific niche rather than try and be all things to everyone. So I don't know, rather than being a landscape gardener, I only do stonework for people with period properties that are listed properties in the so-and-so area, right? For instance. Now, so, and again, if we take, say, your businesses, someone who's a person of color who's needing to use beauty products or skin products is going to have completely different needs, and it's obviously a smaller market, but it's a market which you can resonate with because of your personal situation and understanding. And so just tell us a little bit more about that whole focus on niches and specific narrow parts of the market.
Okay. Well, when I first started and I first qualified, I used to be, everything for everyone. And I soon very quickly realized that wasn't going to work, just by the nature of people who did come and see me in my clinic and the sort of queries I was dealing with. I noticed that it was mainly women of color. And I then made the decision that I would focus on that area alone. So for me, that's been, I guess, the the magic, the magic thing that I did. And I would never, ever tell anyone to go broad ever again. Focusing on your niche, even if it's the one thing, do that one thing and do that amazingly well. Be known for that one thing. I mean, the one thing I'm known for is skin and people of color. That's the one thing I'm known for. So, and that's what I do. I stay in my lane. I play my position, as I say. Play your position. Do not try and do what everybody else is doing, because that's their secret sauce. My secret sauce is skin, women of color, Black women, understanding them, understanding their needs, and matching those things together. So absolutely, niche all the way.
Yeah. So what do you say to someone, and you know, I'll give some comments as well on this, but this concept when you're starting out on a business, let's say someone's starting a side hustle and haven't given up their main job, or they've started their business, it started well, but growth has petered out. There's always a temptation, isn't there, to try and be all things to all people. What would you say to someone who either is stalled in their growth, or they haven't quite got enough of it going to give up their main job? What would your thoughts be there then? Is it a case of they just got to develop their voice better and their route to market?
I think there's lots of things you can do, but I think it's important to drill down. So drill down even further in the area you're in. So if you were providing skincare services in this particular area, what else can you provide in this particular area that you drill down upon? So whether it be, do you want to start providing products? Do you want to start providing consultancy? Do you want to start providing advice? That's literally what I did. I did not think, oh, let me go elsewhere. I started doing writing. That was the other thing. I started writing. So I drilled down. I think it's one of those things where you can't flit about, because it takes a while for you to get known in that area. So if you're flitting because, you know, you're having a poor month, or that month isn't going well, or whatever, and you think, oh, I'm just going to chuck that in, I'm going to do something else. Well, you know, I've also done that. That's why I know it doesn't work. You have to drill down even further as to what else does this niche need that I can provide. You know, and that involves speaking to your customers as well.
Yeah, and obviously the different businesses will have different sort of ways of their customers will have different profiles and different idiosyncrasies. But there is a compromise, or rather, how can we put it? A tension between getting engagement and building follower and sort of building a relationship with your potential customer base, and sticking at it sort of long enough to make it actually happen. Because some people look like they're taking over the world because they've got a million people following them. It doesn't necessarily mean that those people are buying from them, or even could be very fickle, right? Fickle friendships, as it were, versus people who've got a smaller following, but there's much more engagement. And when when it's right for that person to buy or do some sort of business transaction, there's a higher value, or there's more of it. So share with me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to have traction online and social media, but social media is a way of advertising, but it's not necessarily people that come into your business and spend money. So you have to be able to differentiate between the two things. The people who are more likely to buy from you are the people who've transferred from social media, perhaps onto your mailing list, or perhaps has visited you before once and maybe in your clinic, or you have to have contact with people at least, I think, is it 7 times or so before they'll actually even buy anything from you. So social media is great, and you can develop a great following and a great traction. It's a way of developing the tribe. But within that, you have to bear in mind that perhaps only 10% of people within your following are actually engaging with you regularly and listening to what you have to say, and therefore will buy from you. So you have to be very mindful that a large social media following doesn't actually mean a lot. It's your engagement that means a lot. Are you talking to people? Are they talking back to you? And are you then converting them? It happens in your DMs. So your likes don't mean a lot. What goes on in your DMs is what we look for, because that's where you're converting people to actually shop with you. So yeah, it's nice to have that following, but you have to be mindful that that doesn't make your business. It's
a bit like years ago. I mean, I'm 51 years of age, okay? So, and I've been involved in multiple businesses. Some have been very successful. Some have been, I don't even want to talk about, okay? I'm happy to share with you what have gone wrong over the years. And, you know, I've got a PhD in making mistakes. But here's the thing. making mistakes in business, as long as they don't wipe you out or completely poleaxe you, is all part and parcel of working out what lane you need to be in and what works for you. And what works for one other person may not work for you, but equally you might find a bit of secret sauce that suits you. And certainly I've found, because you know, my financial well-being sort of business, really, I didn't even, you know, as I say, when I sort of semi-retired, I didn't need to work. And I'm not saying let's be smug. I'm just saying it wasn't like I had to work to put food on the table, but I still wanted to have an impact on people, and I still like getting paid for the value I create. Okay, so it's not about, you go from, you know, needing to fog a mirror, someone fogs a mirror so you'll do business with them, to actually you want to do good work, and the money you earn and the profits you make and the wages you get and the margin you create is really a measurement of how successful you've been at running a business, and more importantly, connecting with your audience.
Of course, yes.
So do you want to just share with us a couple of sort of insights and thoughts about things that didn't work so well and things that have worked well for you?
Things that haven't worked well. I once had a skincare business, a skincare products business, that didn't work because, for a number of reasons. Number one, it wasn't authentic enough. It wasn't different enough. It wasn't authentic enough. It wasn't bringing anything new to the market, and that closed with a 5-figure loss.
Really?
Yes, 5-figure loss.
Oh.
And I can talk about it now because obviously, you know, it's over and done with.
Yeah.
But that really set me up into learning more about being niche and not being, being authentic, speaking to my own tribe, and also being niche. That really, it was from that I went on to then become quite successful in what I do. And if I hadn't had that experience, I don't think I would have continued in this line of work where I am. Things happen all the time, you know, especially with the onset of Corona. We've made massive mistakes at clinic in terms of, you know, buying in stock that we've gone, oh gosh, we're not opening, what can we do with this stock? And that's thousands of pounds worth of stock. What do we do with it? So you learn these mistakes all the time. You learn mistakes where even you've been misrepresented, where perhaps maybe we've given a quote to press, but it's come out the wrong way. And I'm going to my PR, oh my God, what's going to happen to us? And so you learn, you make these mistakes all the time, and you just sharpen up. I've had mistakes where I've done work and contracts haven't been signed, and it's fizzled out. It's just fizzled out.
Yeah, you got the site, you've been ghosted. Like who? Dija who? We don't know anyone by that name.
So now, obviously, you know, if I don't see that contract, then nothing gets done. You know, I just sit on it until a contract is signed. So every day we learn new things. Every day we iterate, especially in my business, we're iterating every day. Every day is what can we learn from this situation. We data mine every day. Even today, I was like, right, where do most of our clients come from? Let's find out where they come from, because that's where we want to be, or that's where we want to sharpen our presence. So data mining is very important for us, because that's how we learn from the things that we've been doing and what's working and what's not, apart from the major mistakes that, you know, I make every so often as well. But if you don't make those mistakes, you're never going to progress.
And we found that the people on our mailing list, bearing in mind we don't use that list really heavy, but what we found was that best engagement came when we just told them about the last 4 or 5 blogs and a few things about what we're up to. Right, massive levels of engagement and connection and what have you. Another thing, I mean, it sounds silly, but we didn't enable comments on our blog situation on our website. Now, look, don't get me wrong. When I first started my wellbeing business, after I sort of semi-retired from advice, I had contractors put my website together, and you know, there was Evan and their dog working for me sort of externally. It wasn't until I brought that sort of in-house, as it were, and had dedicated resource to really focus and rebuild all that, and said, well, you haven't got your comments turned on. But it wasn't in the procedure. So when the blog was posted, just because of the way Squarespace works, it just hadn't been activated. So you're not going to get engaged. As soon as we turned it on, we had 4 comments on one blog, really lovely written, like the people had spent a couple of hours thinking about it. Really nice engagement. It's just something simple like that. It doesn't have to be an algorithm and a bloke or a woman with a PhD in maths. It can be something simple that you just haven't initiated, or you haven't made it easy for people to interact with you.
You've got to give your audience a way of communicating with you. You definitely have to. Like for us, It's things like for some reason, we hadn't turned on our Google reviews. Now, it's as simple as this. We hadn't turned on our Google reviews. Now, I think last count, we have about 21 5-star Google reviews, nothing less than 5 stars. We just hadn't turned it on. You know, we just even weren't asking clients to give us feedback. We just weren't. And it's the simplest things. Or we weren't using our mailing list enough. So now we use our mailing list and we tell clients what we're up to. We will say, like, we just sent out a mailing list on Friday, a mail on Friday going, you know, we're open for appointments again. All of a sudden, appointments flooded in, you know.
But they don't know, they can't come, can they?
Well,
right?
yeah, exactly. If you don't tell, you know. So it's the very simple things that we overlook that actually are the things that you think, well, why didn't I do that before?
Yeah, and it's funny you should say, and I want to get this point across to people. Bear in mind, I've been like you. I've been involved in business for a long time. As I say, loads of successes and failures and all sorts in between. But we sometimes overlook the things that kind of the simple little things that we can do without a lot of cost and without lots of effort, right? Just by doing an audit of what we're already doing before we rush off and buy a new course or a new piece of software or hire someone in. Let's do an audit of what we're already doing. And are we like, for instance, our YouTube channel? We're putting a lot of money in, time and money into YouTube. And I would say to people, if depends on the business, my business is different from most people because I'm really selling trust and leadership and that kind of situation in terms of my help with people. But what we're realizing is we hadn't thought when we were writing, we didn't have a strategy really about kind of how the different video groups going together. So we sat back and really just thought through, who are we trying to not market to, but connect with? Yeah. What are the streams of content and thought leadership we can give? What works for us with our tone of voice, with our work ability to do stuff? Who can do what, where, and when? And then we started to actually look at the mechanics of how those YouTube videos will be scripted, filmed, edited, and also placed onto YouTube, even down to the day that they get home. For instance, one little nugget for people: if you put your video unlisted for 24 hours before making it live, some magic seems to happen, assuming you do everything else right. It's got a good script, a good story, all the things have been set up right. But some magic happens. It seems that the Google world, YouTube world, picks up that kind of, by osmosis, your video. And then when you go live, you tend to get more, it's got more traction. Just a small thing like that. Any little hacks or ideas that you've noticed from your video, your digital platforms?
More, for example, we use Instagram a lot. We know that just by looking at my page, we know that people who follow us like to hear more about skincare. 70 to 80% more about skincare. They actually physically like to see a skincare product on our page, as opposed to a magazine article that I've written or anything like that. So that's something we know, and a lot of our stats were falling because we just weren't doing that.
But how did you find that out, Dija? How did you find that piece of
experiment? It's as simple.
You did A/B testing.
Yeah, I just literally did a week of lots of skincare posts with actual products and commentary about product, and I did a week where it was just about stuff. And whilst people do like me talking about business and that sort of stuff, they come to me for skincare. So play your position. Know what people are coming to you for before you branch out to the things that you like. You know what makes you money, and then you can then build on that trust to say, well, I actually do like business as well, and I like speaking about business, because then people already bought into you. Things like understanding your insights on Instagram. Lots of people don't understand their insights. They don't understand what those insights are telling them. Even things like what time of day to post. So, for example, when I do sponsored ads, I know that I need to post slightly before my engagement peaks, so that those sponsored ads can get seen when my engagement is at its peak. Things like, for example, I know that a lot of our audience are busy, mature mums. Perhaps they don't have a lot of time to read the content, so we do videos. So we have, every so often, we have a lovely guy that comes in, films a lot of our videos in the clinic for us, edits them into bite-sized pieces, and we just churn those out. So because again, it gives, and the engagement on those are much higher than when we just have a picture and lots of text.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing what works, understand your audience, what works, ask them, use your Instagram tools, your polls on Instagram, your question and answers on Instagram, use those tools. I mean, I've always got a question and answer up, and something. Yes, sometimes it's fun. Yes, sometimes because I'm nosy, but a lot of the time I'm asking so that I can find out what people want.
Yeah.
And people are happy to tell you because it's a yes or no answer a lot of the time.
But you make a very interesting point there, Dija. We mustn't assume that we know what people want. And even if we knew what they wanted a month ago, we can't rest on our laurels or that. We've always got to be, but not assuming that it's always going to change, but just always checking in with people.
Yes.
So what, if you think about your business, obviously, because it started out as a business where you were very hands-on, weren't you? You were doing demonstrations and you were, treatments and stuff.
Yeah.
How have you developed, or rather, to what extent now is digital only a key part of your business, or is it not, or it'll never be, or how do you see that? How is it now, and how do you see it going?
It's a massive part. So when we opened the clinic in end of January last year, we always had plans to do something digital, but it was like yes, we'll do something digital. We've not spent lots of money doing the space up so that we can be online. We've spent money doing the space up so that we can have people come and visit us. And even part of the reason why we had that space was because it was big, beautiful space with lots of events. We had events planned for every day of the week. So obviously we were only open 6 weeks before we had to close. Our digital strategy was literally overnight. I was stood by the kitchen sink. I remember it, and it was literally overnight. And we went straight to, right, what can we do? So we offered online consultations. We offered online masterclasses. I partnered with some of the magazines that I know. We offered events through that. We then, my husband managed to sort out DHL so we could do worldwide delivery and bring our delivery costs down and stuff like that. So digital became a massive part. In fact, digital helped us. We had clients in Israel, we had clients in Korea, we had clients in America, South Africa, and that's only because of digital. If we didn't go digital, we would never have had that. So digital remains a big part of the business. And even when we open on the 12th of April, digital will still remain. We will still offer digital consultations. We will still, do digital masterclasses and that sort of stuff, because it's allowed us to connect with people that we wouldn't have otherwise connected with. And that means, and that makes a massive difference to the business, especially when we think about the other plans that we have for the next 2 or 3 years. Having that worldwide connection is really important.
Well, it's an interesting point you make there, is that we're all guilty of not sorting stuff out unless we have to, right? And COVID was the great, I mean, I know there's been some terrible situations happening and some people are really hurting. I get that. But there's a large base of people who this has forced them to sort of look at their income earning, their business, how they're running an existing business, whether it's their main business or a side business. And I know medical friends of mine who said to me that changes they were trying to get done for the last 20 years got done in 2 weeks. Yeah. Right? Because it had to be. And they said they're never going back to, like a GP guy I know, he said he's never going back to it's all analog in the surgery, right? But equally, it's not sustainable to be all digital and never seeing patients, because sometimes it's what what they don't tell you, you don't see. So I think what we're really saying here is that for some businesses, finding that sweet spot between the digital engagement and delivery, and the physical delivery or the experience of being part of the brand or buying the product, is equally valuable. And I'll share one point with you. I have a business called Generation Next, which is my consultancy. And I had just finished my training for it. I retrained, did 2 years training in America, constantly backwards and forwards. So I finished my training, and this is where I help wealthy families prepare their heirs to receive their inheritances. And some of these inheritances are 50, 60, 100 million, 150 million pounds. So you imagine trying to prepare young people for what might come to them. That's a big problem. But that business, I was taught and accredited totally in person, family sessions, one-to-one sessions. It was all taught as if you had to do it one-to-one. We had to pivot very quickly, and we found that 80% of this delivery, 75%, could quite easily, with some tweaks and adaptions and slightly just changing it slightly, could be delivered digitally. But we had to switch it up and move things around. But what we've now realized, and for the same sort of fees, But we've now found that we can get a lot more of the younger people are more likely to be able to attend those things digitally than they would in person. But here's the thing. The digital work we've been doing has built such rapport and trust with the families I've been working with. They are so now looking forward to like their premium event of in person with me and my assistant and the family together, and make it more of a it's a more of an experience. In other words, you've earned the right for that experience. So I would have thought the same for you with your skincare. Someone might be building a relationship with you, may have bought 1 or 2 products, and now is looking forward to going into the mothership, as it were, and seeing, you know, being part of that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've realized, is that a lot of people who had consultations with us have further gone on to now book appointments for when we open in April and May, because it's, oh, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to meet you. Because the other aspect of the whole going digital was that I almost, not by design, I was more vulnerable with our business. And when I got the keys to West Room before it opened, I promised everyone that I would take them on a blow-by-blow account of how to build a salon. And that's even down to choosing furniture. I used to Instagram the whole thing, even when the plumbing wasn't working and the toilet wasn't flushing, all sorts of stuff. Even when if we was like, oh my God, we're running out of money for this project. If we don't open this, we're going to just run out of money. I was very, very open that, you know, because I was sick and tired of someone saying, oh God, I got my keys. And the next thing you know, there's a beautiful space. It's like, well, no, something happened between keys and beautiful space. And people need to know that story. So when COVID happened, I thought, well, what can I do apart from tell you the truth again and bring you on that journey? So I've had people who perhaps haven't even had any digital services with us, but they've been invested from November 2019. And now they're booking appointments because they're like, well, do you know, I've heard so much about this place. I've seen you talk about it. I've seen you cry online about it. I've seen real tears come out of your eyes about it. I actually want to come and see the place now. And they're booking appointments to come in now. So even when you go digital, I think it's a good point of, you know, your authenticity is called into question as well. But yes, people are making an occasion out of it, whether they've bought from us before, whether it's their first time, but they're just invested in the story. People are making a big deal. And, you know, even we are making a big deal because some of these people we've never met, I've only ever seen them, you know, online. So it's like, well, how can we celebrate you for even coming into our space? Because now that is real special. We've built a relationship enough. So yeah, it's a premium thing now. Coming into a clinic, it's a premium thing. It's a destination day out, because a lot of people are still very cautious about where they're going. You know, it's still not, we're not going to open and it be like how it was in, you know, February 2019. It's not going to be like that. People are still going to be very cautious. So it's a big deal for them to come out, and that has to be recognized as well. It's a premium thing.
And I just wanted to, if we can, just touch on this issue of authenticity. I mean, I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on Instagram this time last year. You would not have got me on Instagram. I didn't even know what it was.
No,
never knew what it was. Okay, but, you know, I've been around a long time. Okay. And it was my daughter, right, who said to me, Dad, why are you not on Instagram? And I said, well, it's not really my sort of thing. I don't hang out on Instagram looking at people's pictures and stuff. It's not I don't even have a Facebook account. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not into technology, and it doesn't mean I'm a Luddite. It just means that wasn't my watering hole. She said, yes, but here's the thing, she said, and bear in mind my daughter's 22, right? She said, Dad, but there's a lot of people on there talking about money. But she said, but you've got the qualifications and you've got the experience and you've gone from being in debt when you were in your 20s to being a multimillionaire. She said, you should be on there. You're the real deal. She said, now some of these people may be, she said, but I can tell you a lot of them aren't. So how do you, when you are building this digital thing, how is it you've managed to build the trust with your people? Is it just the consistency of the message and making sure that if they buy stuff that they get a great experience from that, or what have you done that's helped you develop that trusted brand?
I guess it's the consistency of the message. It's the fact that I'm very open about my qualifications. People see me studying. I'm very real. I'm not super glamorous all the time. I'm very accessible. I have my glamorous moments, but I'm very, very accessible. People can relate. I present something that people can relate to. And yes, when they come for their appointments, with us, even though it's a digital appointment, they still get the full package. They get nothing is missed out. They get digital notes. So we will send them a copy of the notes that I make, and I will type it up, and I will add any relevant things I think they should know about. From the minute they interact with my assistant to book their appointment, to the point where they get their Zoom details, to the point where they get the text message after the appointment saying, how was it? You know, we follow up. We have a whole month-long follow-up.
All the touch points. Yeah.
All the touch points post-appointment. So, you know, and we are always on hand. Once you have an appointment with us, we are there to handhold you and guide you. We do a lot of hand-holding. A lot of our clients become our friends. I was saying to my assistant that, you know, I can't wait for when we have clients back in. And there's this thing we do when a client leaves, I always see them out of the door, and I'll shut the door and I go, oh my God, they're so nice. And then she'll go, all of our clients are nice. And it's almost like a ritual, but we do things like we send client birthday cards. If we send chocolates, we send flowers, we keep up with you. You move house, we send you flowers. And we do a lot of caring for our clients. A lot of our clients are like our friends. You know, we send out complimentary products. We take, in terms of like, you know, samples and whatnot, we take all these things very, very seriously, because I fundamentally believe that people will always remember how you made them feel. Absolutely. Especially in beauty. So for some people, it's not about the money they're spending with us, it's about just how we make them feel. And we really do value all of our clients. I remember reading this thing about the guy from Nike. He wrote to all of his customers. He would write to them all the time, so that when the time came, he was always in their mind. When the time came to buy a sports shoe, they'd think Nike. I turned up in a Clubhouse conversation the other day, literally just to listen, and someone went, yo, Dija Ayodele, I've been looking for you. Yes. I was just like, oh my God, who knows me?
You can run, but you can't hide. Yeah.
But she was in America. She said, my cousin in London talks about you all the time.
Right.
So
brilliant,
you know,
marketing.
we look after our own. That's one thing we do. We don't, once you come into our fold, we really do look after you.
Yeah. And also I would have thought that, and this is the thing about using digital to connect with your clientele, or the people who can refer you. Even if I've been referred for doing financial wellbeing talks for employers by people who I don't even know who they are, but because they've been interacting with my content, and they're obviously aware I do this, or they've seen the testimonials, they just said there is only one person to do this. If you cannot afford for it to go wrong, and you've got a sensible budget, and you don't have a lot of time, there is only one person you can bring in. You know what I mean? So it's that ability for people to, for you to make it easy for people to refer to you as you say, the person. So it's being narrow, focus on your niche. It's being authentic. It's being consistent, as you said. You said also know your analytics. You know when it's the best time to present your material to your tribe, your people, your people who are following you, the people who want to interact with you. And as you said, show it warts and all. Don't always be, show vulnerability. I think that's a key point. Dija, I'm just conscious of the time here, but what sort of trends are you seeing in the different platforms that you're using to interact with your clientele and that you've been using in business? What's your sort of top 3 or 4 tips would you share with people about what's working for you?
What's working for us? Videos work for us, which is why, for example, Clubhouse doesn't really work for us that well, because we can't obviously share video content on there. So video works for us very well on Instagram. Our mailing list works amazingly well. So use your mailing list. That works well. For us, again, that knowing your makeup of what makes your customers float in terms of digital. Do they like to hear about product, or do they like to hear about treatments? What do they like? Like for us, we know that people really like a picture of a product and what that product does and the benefits of that product. So those are the things that really work for us, that we are happy with to continue pursuing. Facebook doesn't really work for us very well. So also know your platform. I know, and what's easier for you to operate. For me, Instagram is where it's at. I'm always on Instagram. Facebook is for my family. Clubhouse, I'm there to listen. Twitter, every so often. I'm not witty enough for Twitter. That's the thing. So
it's a bit angry as well, Twitter,
yeah,
isn't
and it can be a bit angry. But do keep an eye out for the new platforms as well, and make sure you have a foot in each platform, so that if you ever need to use it, because if one thing Corona's taught us, we need to be ready to move at any time. So do keep an eye out for each platform. Make sure you have an account on the different platforms, so that if you need to go on there, you can go on there. If you want to use Clubhouse, make sure your knowledge is bang on. Make sure you are hot in what you say you are in, because when you go on Clubhouse, there's so many different experts on it. Be mindful of that as well. But also be mindful that you own none of these platforms. Mark Zuckerberg and whoever else at Clubhouse or whatever platform can decide at any time to pull the plug on you, as we found out when some influencers were talking about the movement in Nigeria called NSARS, and I think they got blocked or something. So remember, you own none of these platforms. Always remember that the platforms should be a way in which you get people to come over to you and your mailing list, rather than relying on the platforms forever. Because if the plug is pulled on you, how do you talk to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a couple of other observations. You're absolutely right. They're not relying on one route, and build your mailing list. Absolutely right, because you've got more control over that. But I think also there comes a point when you've got to ask yourself where your time and your money is best spent.
Yes.
And one thing I would say to you is, if you are struggling with your to really leverage your digital, then I would recommend that you hire an expert, or someone, a proper expert, someone who kind of not necessarily they're a guru, but that they know that all the little tips and tricks and little angles and things that they've probably spent 5-6 years learning and making all the mistakes.
We've just done that.
If you spend them, if you spend a couple of thousand quid, 500 quid a month, £200, whatever they charge, it's peanuts, right? If it means that you unlock and you find a better way of working and interacting with your audience, and we're certainly finding that, but you have to put the time and you have to put money in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've literally just done that. We've just hired for when we reopened, in time for reopening, because I also realized that time-wise, it's not something I have. I don't have time. I have time for my own personal Instagram, but I don't have time for the business Instagram. And we've just hired someone to look after that for us, because that's what they're expert at, and I'm not an expert at it. I know what I'm looking for. I know, but I don't have the time. So I would actually say that's one thing that people are always scared of. They're scared of spending the money a little bit. And it's difficult when you think you're not making the money. But it's one of those things, when you spend the money, you'll find that you free yourself up to make bigger bucks.
Well, spending money, investing money for the right reason, not just buying a course to try and teach you something because you can't be bothered to read a book, right? I mean, I've read 600 books on personal finance. I mean, I don't need to go on a course on the stuff, because I've done the groundwork and I had 30 years experience. So don't convince, you've got to spend the money on the right place. And there are people selling courses and all this stuff that quite frankly is kind of, if you could, it's probably not going to help you. But an expert to help you on an aspect of your business to make it better, whether it's automation, whether it's client nurturing, lead nurturing, whether it's understanding the use of the platform, I would commend it. I want to just make a recommendation to people that a lot of people who are in small businesses, side hustles, or they're about to scale up, their legal situation, their legal agreements, their everything in their business, their control of their intellectual property, or whatever it is, they are, I know, GDPR, data. I know for a fact, and I was running a financial services business for 17 years, FCA regulated, so I know rules inside out. You know, I lived in that whole world of you cannot change your underpants without checking with compliance. So I think in that way, and I've got a great recommendation for someone here, and I don't do these things lightly. There's this lawyer called Suzanne Dibble. Now, she has digitized legal advice, right, for the small to medium-sized business owner. And what she's done is, and I'll give you the website, and I make no money out of this at all. It's smallbusinesslegalacademy.com/go. I'll say that again, smallbusinesslegalacademy.com/go. And for $9.95, and again, I earn no money out of this, but for $9.95, she gives you access to all of her videos that explain all of your obligations, all of the templates you need, and access to an updating service for 12 months. So obviously we know legal things are changing, but something like that as a business owner, it may be that you're doing really well, but you've got yourself exposed here on the back door in your legal stuff. And who wants to spend 10, 15 grand on lawyers? You don't. But equally, you don't want to get a £20 template off of someone who, doesn't know what they're doing. It's not your business. So, so there's an example of someone who's digitized her business. And what she now does is she does these, she does live events on video, and she picks apart a thing, and she's built so many, but it's all free. But then, of course, what she wants to do is sell her package. But she's very honest about it. And that's an example, a great example of a great business that has changed the face of legal, sort of legal work for small to medium-sized businesses. She's brilliant at nurturing her potential customers, because she's been nurturing me for a year before I took the plunge. And I've been very impressed. So that's an example. Plus, check her out. There might be someone else. But I think legal side is something people often forget about, isn't it?
Of course. No, legal is very, very important. Things like your trademarks and that is super, super important. It's funny. We've got a trademark called But First Your Skin Health. And when we started using it, when I started using it, a lot of people also started using it. And we had to send letters out to say, actually, just so you know, this is a registered trademark, and I have to enforce my rights for you not to use my trademark. Trademarks, domains, I own 40 different domains.
Is that all?
I protect everything. I defend everything. But your legals, your accounting structures, those, what do you need a holding company, for example? All those are very, very important things that a lot of people, especially people who perhaps maybe run consultancies as well and trade on their name, the need for you to separate your name from your person is very important, especially if you're going to trademark your name. And I find that for a lot of small businesses, only when the SHIT hits the fan, that's when they go, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I should have done that. And then it's even more expensive to sort out then, or you just have to let it go completely. So you do need, I call it short-term pain for long-term gain. Because we have a year coming up ahead of us, at least the next 6 months, where it's a lot of legals. And at the moment, I'm just like, you know what? It's painful. It's financially painful. It's time painful, but it's got to get done, because if you don't do it, you're exposing yourself in all areas.
And just a couple of points for anyone who's either running a business or in the process of building a business or doing a side hustle. A couple of things here just to bear in mind that came out of the budget, and I thought I'd share that with the people while they're on, plus also people watching on the replay. Normally, trading losses, it's quite complicated how you can deal with trading losses. So what I mean by that is, if you are minded, say you've had a terrible year, or you're going to invest to build your business and create a loss, you can carry losses back that occur in 2021 and in 21-22 back up to 3 years, which is not normally the case. So if you had some bumpy years, right, and let's say you, whatever, through investment or bad trading or just a bad year, you need to, you can potentially carry those losses back much further and clear out previous years when you did have good profits and probably did pay some corporation tax and get a tax refund. And another thing is that investing in plant and machinery of things like equipment and computers and shops and anything that's plant and machinery, you don't just get 100% deduction. You will, from the 6th of April, get 130% deduction. So instead of £1,000 on computers being deductible for taxes, £1,300 deducted. So don't underestimate that. There's some really good stuff in the budget that will help you invest in your business. So just a couple of things to share there. I wanted to share.
And don't be afraid to invest in a really good accountant, because there are some things we've had to change accountants recently, and there's some things that I was just like mind blown, like I did not know this, but I would not have known it if we hadn't again invested, because I'm going to call it an investment rather than a spend, invested in a new accountancy firm. Just like the legal stuff, we've had to invest in that, because that's how you protect your long-term future for the business. So I mean, I think the fact that you can carry those losses back so far, as well as make so much more off your investment technology from a technology point of view, I think that's fantastic, especially for people who are just about to start up, because when you start up, what's one of the things you do? You invest heavily in those early years. So the fact that you can get something back, I think that's going to be really helpful in these times.
And don't be afraid to. Not all of us have got wealthy families. I've never had a wealthy family. But if your family, don't be afraid to go to your family and ask to either borrow money from them on commercial terms with an agreement, okay, and with a repayment method, okay, and pay them a fair return, because you're a good bet. You wouldn't borrow any money you couldn't pay back. Or more importantly, try and get them to invest in your business, okay, and let them share in the profits as well, possibly. So don't be afraid, and we don't need lots of money. We don't have to have wealthy families, and you're not going to take your your mum and dad's last penny. But do talk about this in the family and be honest and say, and say to yourself, if you go to family and friends for whether it's loan or investment in your business, say, look them in the eye, and as long as you're comfortable, you've done all your homework, and you believe you're a good bet. I don't think there's anything wrong with speaking to family and friends, as long as it's done in a business-like fashion, and it respects people's situation, and it's documented. And 2 or 3 members of your family lending you $2,000 over the next 5 years, but 3% interest.
Really, when I opened the clinic, my brother actually, my brother gave me some money towards it, and I
gave you or lent you?
He lent me because I paid it back. He didn't ask for interest, but I paid it back. And I told him when I would pay it back, and I kept my word, and I paid it back a few days before, and he was like, ooh. But, you have to, but I presented him a deck. I said, this is the plan, this is what we want to do. I showed that I was serious. This wasn't his little sister asking for money. This was businesswoman to businessman asking for a loan. So you have got to present correctly, I think, as well. Even my daughter, I said to her, she's 7, I said, present your case. You want a pet? You present your case. You want to buy Roblox? Present your case.
Absolutely.
So, so even she knows she's got to come correct. But yes, you shouldn't. I have a saying. It's called fair nothing. It's an invisible tattoo. I say invisible because at some point I'll probably get it tattooed on my hand, but it says fair nothing. If you don't ask, you don't get. I make sure I ask all the time. And ask well. If you're going to ask, don't make it throwaway. Ask very well.
And it's interesting, I just recorded a pod today. My podcast is Real Money Stories, in case anyone doesn't know. But Real Money Stories, I recorded this today, and I knew the person from many, many years ago. I knew her I know her mum. And she said, she told me about her first business she ever had was, she worked out, she was on a school bus. It was a long trip from home to the school, and she thought she could sell sweets on the bus. And she asked her mum, she thought this was a good idea. She thought there was good margins in it. And her mum said, she goes, would you lend me the money so I can get the stuff from the cash and carry? And her mum said, do me a business plan and a spreadsheet and show me it's a serious, viable business. So she did. And she made enough money there to go on things like holidays and trips and stuff for 2 years, from the age of 13 to 15, and now she runs a very successful marketing business. But she said that early discipline of show me you're serious, show me you thought it through, show me where the money's coming from. We're not going to, we know you can't guarantee success, but that if you show people you're serious about it, you've got more than just a knee-jerk reaction into it, then I think you're going to get ahead. Dija, I've taken too much of your time.
That's all right.
You're very gracious. It's been great talking to you. Is there anything you want to say before we let you go? Anything to do with business, making money, family, anything like that?
I guess one thing I'd say is one of the things I've really learned this year is about my data and my analytics. Really spend time understanding your data, the smallest things, where are your customers coming from? What are they buying? What is your best-selling product? Why is it your best-selling product? Really spend time analyzing your data. How valuable is each customer to you, and what can you do for them in return for that value? Really spend time understanding your data. It helps you make the best decisions you can for your business, and it helps you make decisions with your eyes wide open, because sometimes you're never good. It's not a case of making the wrong decision or you're making the right decision. It's about making a decision based on as much evidence as possible. Yes, it could still go tits up, but fair enough, but you have made the best decision you possibly can, and the only way you know that is by knowing your data. So I'm always asking my assistant, what does the data say? Yes, we've got this hunch, and I have hunches all the time, but I need to always back up my hunch with some data and some figures. So that's what I will say to anyone. And use the free tools for gaining data. Use Instagram. Instagram's a great source. Your polls, your question and answers, use that as a great places where you can confirm your hunch. And then you can go off and maybe do deeper research. But definitely data is where it's at.
Yeah. And I think just to finish that, and that's wonderful advice, and it's been great hanging out with you. And I would just say this, you know, business for me, someone said to me, what are your hobbies? Now, I can play the piano and I do other things, but my hobby is business. I like business.
Yes.
Business is part of who I am. And it's okay if it's not part of you, and if it's not your thing, that's fine. But if you are in business, don't be embarrassed about being in business. Don't be embarrassed about it being something which consumes a lot of your thoughts and ideas, because it is like having, you know, an affair, really, because it's another thing in your life that matters to you, just like your partner and your children. And don't be afraid with that, because business is about value. It's about exchanging value. It's about making the world go round. And as long as it's a fair exchange, then you do very well in life. And you know, that's why I love business people. I love hanging out with you. Dija, you are a superstar. Thank you everyone for being on tonight.